Big news lands for Boston's stadium project. MK Ultras share their best and worst of the year, and we get a World Cup ticketing update from Travel Football Fan. That and much more on Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick Around, the program where we dot the map of the American soccer landscape. My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy. To my side, filled with cheer for the new year, we got radio soccer guy Jason Davis. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm recovering a little bit from New Year's Day celebration here in Puerto Rico, but I'm good. Do I look fresh? Do I look ready to go to talk American soccer with you, Rob?
New year, new attitude, looking good. Welcome aboard, everyone tuning in to us live here today. And shout out to the new subscribers and members over New Year. It was on New Year's Eve we crested the 6,000 subscriber mark, and it has continued to tick on upwards. So welcome in to all the new folks. Thanks for joining in and supporting the program. Like I said, we've got a guest today. Travel Football Fan is going to give us the details of the ticket purchasing, the travel, and the politics going into World Cup 2026. And our World Cup news has a new sponsor, so we'll get to that as well. And we are going to dip into your best and worst of the year, and you can share your thoughts there on the Morning Kick Around Discord server. How does one gain access to the Morning Kick Around Discord server, Jason?
You become an Ultra. You become an MK Ultra, which, yes, we know about the reference. That's the joke. It's a joke. Obviously, MK Ultra was not a joke, but we've got a little in joke for our members, MK Ultras, because Ultras, soccer fans who, take their sport very seriously. We will give you access to the Discord if you jump in as a member. It's a couple of bucks a month on the channel. They're obviously swelling our numbers. We'll dot the map with your general location so that we can see where you are in the world. Lots of dots in America. Maybe we'll add some dots across the planet at some point, Rob. You get access to bonus stuff as well. But yes, the Discord is kicking. It's great.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Support how you can and follow along and support on screen during the live shows. One of the perks of becoming an MK Ultra is priority commenting on screen. Soccer night in Detroit, getting in on it. Morning, all. How you feeling on this first Friday of the new year? And Chris, always bringing his coffee to his morning programming. You ready to roll?
Let's do it, Rob. Let's dive in.
All right. Our first long balls of 2026. Here we go. Big news for Boston's stadium project dropped on New Year's Eve. On Wednesday, the Kraft Group announced that it struck an agreement with the cities of Everett and Boston, Massachusetts, to transform a former industrial site along the Mystic River into a pro soccer stadium for the New England Revolution. We went through some of the proposals and we kind of took a deep dive into their video and their renderings a couple of weeks ago, but this is a big jump ahead for the Boston soccer project.
Let me just say, you can never have too much cynical energy when it comes to the New England Revolution or stadium projects in Boston or anything that involves red tape in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, or a nearby city, in this case, Everett, Massachusetts. Like, you can never have too much cynicism. If you are doubting that this is actually going to happen, I understand you. Like, I get you. We are probably simpatico on some level. You cannot presume that this is going to go exactly the way all of these people want it to go, because Boston tends to throw up roadblocks. But, or certainly the timeline on this could be, years in the future, even as they tick little boxes in the process, Rob. At the same time, this is as close as we have ever been to the New England Revolution building their own stadium. Like, we are fine. There's a site picked out. They've done some pretty pictures of what it could look like. They've reached agreements. This has become something that actually feels somewhat real. Now, again, and I've got Revs friends of mine who would say, I won't believe it till I'm sitting in the stadium drinking a beer watching the game. Like, I just won't believe it until that's what's going down. And I got it. I get that again. But man, this is potential in Boston to unlock something that American soccer hasn't had to this point. And look, I know we got John Stark, who's one of our ultras in the chat, who knows Boston, knows Massachusetts, Massachusetts resident. I was going to say the colloquial phrase for someone from Massachusetts, but that's probably not fair to John because I don't know. Anyway, this is a town, this is a city that has so much potential, right? And because this team has always been in Foxborough, which again, on some level made sense. Certainly in the beginning, you've got the Kraft family who's investing in Major League Soccer. They're willing to put their money down on a speculative project back in '96, Rob. Like, this was not guaranteed that MLS was going to go and work and thrive for 30 years. And we came close to it shutting down a couple times. So, and I'm not going to absolve the Crafts of all of their soccer sins, but they have been willing to spend money on a sport in the country when that was never a guarantee that it would work. So you have to give them credit for that. And if their involvement was also kind of tied to this, well, we're just going to buddy up with our other sports asset, our other team we own in a different sport, and we're going to save some costs, and we're fine. But this team, in order to level up, in order to reach the moment that American soccer is in, needs their own building. And if they're getting incrementally closer to that, we should be happy.
Good reason and good justification for not using the slang term for a Bostoner. We have a young viewer, Raylan, tuning in for the first time, who wants to say hi. Hi, Raylan. Thanks for tuning in to us this morning. So next up, or part of this agreement is saying that the Kraft Group will handle the environmental cleanup site. Lengthy amount of pollution going there when we reviewed the documents of the site proposal earlier. And then another part of this press release I found interesting, that $1 for every soccer ticket sold and 1.5% of every concert ticket sold will be paid to the city of Boston in perpetuity, which I thought was wild.
Yeah, look, and again, like, without having every single element of this agreement in front of us, and neither one of us being experts on public-private partnerships and construction projects and redevelopment and all that stuff, we can't know just how good this is from a Revs perspective, from a City of Boston, City of Everett perspective, et cetera, et cetera. We're not gonna have the final word on just how good this is. But if there are some things going in the direction of Everett and Boston to make it worth their while, to give a private enterprise like the Crafts an opportunity to build a soccer stadium that wouldn't otherwise happen because there just aren't big plots of land in the Boston metropolitan area or in Boston itself or in Everett next door to build soccer stadiums unless you are in a public-private partnership. If this is what it takes, let's hope that all parties benefit, right? Soccer fans are going to benefit. The Kraft family will benefit with their team in that building. The city of Everett and the city of Boston will also benefit from this private group getting some sweetheart deal to build where this decommissioned power plant is.
Yeah, and I'm sure a soccer stadium, I know from my perspective, where I am and being an enthusiast of the game, a soccer stadium sounds a lot more fun than, former industrial site. But that's just my lay opinion, just adding on to the whole benefits. Everett
as a guy from the Detroit metropolitan area, a few things about some decommissioned stuff, I think, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I'm way more for repurposing old stuff than just continue expansion into the suburbs, into the rural areas in perpetuity. Definitely reclaiming old and crumbling industrial areas. I see the benefit in that. Everett, another add-on. Everett will get $2.25 from every ticket sold in that same vein that they talked about earlier. And then it's just kind of fun to daydream to see if this happens, because the one part that of that announcement we talked about a week or two ago about the kind of the local impact presentation that we looked over is the water taxis, being able to ride down the river down the Mystic River on a water taxi from the city and go to Everett. That would be pretty cool and unique American soccer experience. Moving along, actually, before we move along, we are talking about the active building projects later in the show. We're going to run down the biggest soccer projects of 2026 after our guest at the top of the hour. So stick around for that. Earlier in the week before New Year's, I asked channel members MK Ultras to give us the best and the worst of 2025, and we got good amount of feedback. I'll say that the worst of the year followed a couple themes. I mean, there were some big obvious ones. A lot of Ultras mentioned the World Cup ticket, or not World Cup tickets, but the World Cup draw presentation. And I had actually forgotten about the Club World Cup. That just like poofed out of my brain. Club World Cup and the trophy lift for the Club World Cup dotted many folks' worst of the year list as well.
Yeah, somebody decided that they were going to interrupt the usual process of a team being given a trophy and then lifting said trophy and celebrating the moment themselves. I actually had thought about I had memory hold the Club World Cup a bit too, Rob, but it came up yesterday because some momentous news came out of London yesterday. The guy who
the world champion coach lost his job.
Yeah, I mean, how can you lose your job 6 months after winning the Club World Cup? I mean, what is that all about? I mean, yeah, probably Enzo Maresca probably didn't lose his job as much as there was a disagreement over some idea of how to run Chelsea Football Club, et cetera, et cetera. Apparently, he had his head turned a little bit by Manchester City, who I think is lining things up for Pep Guardiola's potential exit, Rob, and they had identified Enzo as a potential candidate. That's part of the story.
Oh,
by the way,
didn't hear that part.
This is very funny though. I mean, the problem is it's not Friday. It wasn't Friday. It was Thursday. When does anybody get?
He wasn't even supposed to be there that day.
He wasn't even supposed to be there. He wasn't even supposed to be there. So now we're cross pollinating. We're doing Friday and we're doing Clerks. All right, we're doing both those things on this show today. All right. So Enzo Maresca losing his job after winning the Club World Cup is certainly one of those things that's like, what were there some fun moments? The tournament. I don't mean the trophy lift was one of the worst things, definitely. But did the tournament give us some good things? I guess so. But it was so messy and chaotic. Like, as much as it was, oh, look, the Brazilian clubs are showing out a little bit and maybe making a point about Brazilian football, and then the fans were having a good time. We had the fans from Morocco who came and put on a show. Rob, I think that was part of the good thing about the Club World Cup. But then you had the heat, and I mean, speaking of Enzo Maresca, he was one of the chief complainers about the heat in the United States while Chelsea was trying to navigate that tournament. I mean, it was a weird one, right? It was a weird exercise that feels like a fever dream.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So the scenes in Miami of fans trying to storm the gates and crawl through the ventilation shafts and all that, was that Club World Cup?
No, that was Copa America. Which
boy,
did not happen this year, did not happen in 2025. I know we're now in the future, 2026. So that did not happen that happened in 2024. So your brain is making some, but I don't blame you. I mean, this year kind of it was long, but it was also a blur on some level, and it feels like, man, like, did that happen this year? My God.
Another shout out for worst of the year that popped up in a couple of people's comments was the shuttering of North Carolina FC. Definitely. And a lot of people noting, I mean, that they shut down the club mid playoff run. I mean, even if they're going to do that, the fact that they did it before a game was pretty wild, and that hit a number of people's worst of the year. But best of the year for a lot of folks. I'll start with Smoke Demon Madcat. He said his best of 2025 was Pittsburgh's run to the USL Championship final, and the win, giving up 0 goals, and probably one of the best defensive runs in league history.
But we should also know, and shout out to Smoke Demon or whatever his name was, that obviously Pittsburgh winning the title. They had been, running into that particular brick wall over and over and over again for years. Pittsburgh had always been one of the more consistently good teams in the USL Championship. Maybe not the Louisville level, right? Maybe not sort of unstoppable during the regular season, but they were always near the top of the Eastern Conference standings. They were always in the playoffs. They would always get tripped up. They finally do it this year. But what's the bad thing that comes with that, Rob? What was the thing that happened a couple months ahead of that? That's sort of not, I mean, I'm sure for Pittsburgh fans, whatever, who cares? And they've now hired the guy who brought them the trophy as their head coach. But the fact that Bob Lilly was so summarily dismissed or sidelined or whatever, nobody knows. Like, there's no reporting, as far as I can tell, on what Bob Lilly did or did not do, and why that had to come to such a disappointing and sort of sad end.
Yeah, I got to respect the building for the lack of leaks. I mean, nobody spilling the beans is pretty wild, but also on the other side of that there's not enough reporting to really dig in there. Like, you'd think that if this was in maybe another league or sport, that there would be a half a dozen reporters going hammer and tongue to figure out the answer to this question. Similarly, in Detroit with Trevor James. I mean, there's plenty of speculation, and I've heard plenty of rumor and hearsay as to why it was, but there wasn't really any specific reasons given for his dismissal in Detroit.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Mike Tomlin was suspended and just wasn't coaching the Steelers, and they were still playing games and making a run in the playoffs? Would everybody be just like, oh, yeah, I guess that, whatever, Mike's over
He's
there.
on suspension.
He's suspended, whatever. No, there would be constant stories about what did Mike Tomlin do or whatever if that was the case. So it just shows you the difference. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds because they built something very cool there. Speaking of renderings, they didn't make our favorite renderings of 2025, Rob, but
that's a big one.
We probably should have thrown them in honorable mentions because they did do a weird horseshoe to the river rendering as they talk about plans to maybe make a move to that D1 that USL wants to launch.
Yeah, it's a good shout there. Pittsburgh Riverhounds expanding that Riverside Stadium. Definitely should have made honorable mention. But moving along with our best and worst from the MK Ultras, Aaron Pimentel, he said his best moment was Sac Republic getting stadium approval and breaking ground.
Yeah, that's one of the projects that we probably should mention when we get to that too. But that's a big moment. I mean, and that, talk about like the Revs have had the longest. They should be building a stadium saga in MLS. I think. I mean, there was a time when it was like, oh, they played Foxborough, sure, whatever. Then it became, oh, everybody else is building stadiums and the Revs aren't. Oh my God, what's going on here? They're left behind. They're MLS 1.0 in the 2.0, 3.0 era. But Sacramento Republic has had a similarly painful process to get to the point where they could actually start building their stadium. And, remember that the story around Sacramento, Rob, was that they really desperately wanted to be an MLS expansion city, that there was nearly a plan to make Sacramento an MLS city. They had a billionaire behind their push, which is something that basically MLS expansion teams need, is somebody with big money. And I don't want to get into the good or bad of that. That's just the way it is. And then that guy pulled out. He was like, no, it's around the pandemic. That guy was like, no, I don't think this is good money for me. By the way, I think that guy is involved in San Diego, the women's team in San Diego, the Wave, which is kind of a controversial operation in women's soccer if you pay attention to what the stories are on the ground. So I don't know. Anyway, Ron Burkle, I think, is his name. But to get Sacramento to a point where there's approval, they're not going to be, oh, we can't build this if we're not going to MLS. No, we're building a stadium. It's going to be a proper home. And I've said it before. I will say it again. There is real evidence of growth in American soccer when you see things like second division teams, nominally second division teams right now, building their own soccer stadiums. That's not something you could have even imagined 15 years ago.
Moving on with some MK Ultras best of 2025. I'll go down to Zach saying, despite everything, the best of 2025 was the boom in non-league soccer in the United States. I think that the World Cup 2026 may actually provide an even bigger explosion. Lots of folks looking to get back into the game or pick it up for the first time.
Yeah, there's something there. You and I just we were talking about League for Clubs, and they're launching this Pro-Am division, which is something, interesting. Whether it's going to work, and I was looking at the Reddit comments because somebody posted our interview about League for Clubs and the Pro-Am division on the USL Reddit, I think. and lots of people are very skeptical that this is anything. Like, why do you need this? What, this just complicates things. Why don't we simplify the tiers, et cetera, et cetera? And I have sympathy for that idea. I do think there's limits to U.S. soccer's power to be able to simplify the tiers the way that people are talking about. And obviously, when you're talking about pro-am, it's kind of this dodge. It's like, well, we want to be a little bit professional, but we don't want to commit to the money it takes to be professional. And we don't want to have to be subject to professional league standards that U.S. soccer has in place in order to be officially recognized as professional. And so is this an end run around some legal and regulatory things? Maybe. But I also do think that is indicative of some ambition. And it's really hard to say to somebody, hey, you're not allowed to do the thing you want to do because you're not capable of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million or 2 million or 5 million, whatever it is. Like, in order for American soccer to grow, we have to find ways to sort of juice that ambition, or give it its proper lift, and let it thrive a little bit. But man, yeah, like that thing of like, are we doing it all correct? I don't know about that, but I like the fact, in sort of like the big picture sense, I like the fact that there are people willing to take those risks, Rob.
Yeah, I can agree more with you there. More best of 25s. D-Town says that his best for 25 was Ali Wright's hat trick when Union Omaha came to play Portland. He was actually able to get tickets for that game, and it was magical. In addition to that, having our club accepted in the league for clubs in 2026, and the whole process of starting a club for scratch. So big tip of the hat to D-Town for taking on a project similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, that spirit that is coming through, and look, obviously in professional soccer, it's being realized as well. I mean, Portland Hearts of Pine has been a story for a lot of people in American soccer that has been fun to talk about, fun to watch, fun to see grow. I saw they just dropped a new kit, Rob, which I failed to tell you about. And
Landon Donovan. Why was Landon Donovan in that?
I think because it's red and white stripes, and so it felt like it fit on an American soccer legend, a la the Waldo, I guess. Which I have the Waldo at home. It's not with me here. It gives Waldo vibes, I guess. It is bold. It is certainly a bold look that Portland Hearts of Pine dropped on us with the red and white horizontal stripes.
Yeah, the little sea captain hat and the pictures were funny. I thought of like Popeye a little bit when I first saw that. And it'd be pretty funny if the cap was part of the official match day kit, and there was some sort of an exemption to where there's like 11 guys running around with like the sea captain hat.
That'd be very funny. Yeah, it's inspired by a lighthouse up there. There are some pronunciation problems I have with things in New England, so I'm not gonna try to pronounce the name of the lighthouse because I don't remember. It's like with a Q and a U and an O. So anyway, it's a famous lighthouse there in Maine, and they used that as their inspiration for this kit. And Landon Donovan was part of the unveiling of it.
Hey, it's better than just a white, black, or a red, right? It seems some creativity in the kit game in the United States. Another best of 2025, tons of fun, says actually getting to see the Dutch Lions win a game in person. It has been several years. I'm actually curious which Dutch Lions there are, because there are a few in the lower leagues scattered in Dayton and a few other places, but getting to see his team win a game in person, fantastic, and tons of fun. Also references those themes of the worst of the year with the FIFA rigmarole and the Club World Cup. Into some answers coming in live on today's show. I did see a worst of the year come in. I got to scroll up here.
Lots of World Cup draw mentions. Maybe that was one you caught a look at. Go ahead.
Not an MK Ultra, but one of our very regular viewers, Matt Berardino. He said that the non-presentation of the USL Championship trophy was his worst of the year.
Yeah, we covered that. I think obviously the details of that are still kind of murky. The league itself, right? Still no clarification from their side about what actually went down. Obviously, the USL Players Association accused the league of shorting the Pittsburgh Riverhounds their proper celebratory accoutrement because they were upset about the T-shirts that the players wore coming out and the signs that they gave fans that was obviously related to the ongoing CBA negotiations. But yeah, that was an interesting moment. I mean, I don't know if you can put it under best or I wouldn't put it under best or worst. You could say it was the worst moment because it obviously didn't give the Riverhounds their opportunity to celebrate the way that they deserve to celebrate. At the same time, the fact that that whole thing blew up to bring some attention to what is obviously going on behind the scenes with the USL amidst all of the conversation about their intent to start a first division and to do pro well, I think you could say that that's a net positive, right? At least in terms of driving conversation.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it yet, check out our latest segment on the USL PA negotiations as their CBA expired yesterday. So go check out that interview with Connor Tobin. Great stuff there. We have a couple minutes until our guest joins us at the top of the hour. There's some MLS news out there, but before we were hopping on today, kind of a fun rumor because of my Liverpool fandom and interest, and obviously American soccer. Fabrizio Romano saying Charlotte FC prepared to offer Harvey Elliott, now on loan with Aston Villa, trying to bring him in for the first half of the season prior to the World Cup. Pick up that loan from Aston Villa.
Look, he's 22, and Rob, he's not playing. He wasn't playing at Liverpool. He goes on loan. He's not playing at Aston Villa. It hasn't worked out for him under Unai Emery. I think he would be an incredible signing in MLS. He would just be incredible. If Charlie can pull that off, then that would be certainly something worth pointing to. And Charlotte has done some things. You were talking about they've been cooking a bit in the offseason. They seem to be, and this is what we thought. Like when you've got David Tepper, who I think is the wealthiest MLS owner, it certainly was at one point. He's
up there,
billionaire several times over. Obviously, he's got a football interest there in Charlotte as well, but you hoped that he would sort of be the next Uncle Arthur. Like he would be Arthur Blank Redux in a different city with NFL interests, but also a desire to make his soccer team matter in that town, especially if you're playing in the NFL building. You better go big, or you won't be getting anybody. The building won't look very full because it's made for NFL football. Now they're not going to get 60,000 every single time. They didn't this past year, but they obviously made some improvements. I think Dean Smith did a relatively good job into turning that team into a competent outfit. But yeah, take the next step. Bring in Harvey Elliott, 22-year-old, attacking player who can help you do some things. If they get Pep Biel back on the field with Harvey Elliott, woo.
Yeah, my skepticism alarm pops up here. It is that time of the year when any sort of loose, could be truisms have the dots connected for them. Like, oh, Dean, used to be at Aston Villa, and he's at Villa, so there could be a line there. He's not getting playing time, so it would make sense. So it seems like a good way to get clicks on a quiet Friday morning. But Harvey Elliott, one of those players where I think that he'd be one of the Premier League's absolute best players and was on his way to be that, but he had major broken leg and then a follow-up injury after that, and then hasn't been able to make his way into the team. But if for Harvey Elliott, though, it'd be quite the turn for him to come to Major League Soccer, as he was set to become one of Liverpool's marquee players just a year or two ago. But it could also be chumming the water from the agent to maybe stir up some news, maybe urgency for Liverpool to bring him back, or maybe to get a permanent deal somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what you're hoping, if you're a Charlotte fan, is that Harvey Elliott sees MLS as an opportunity to create a new platform for him to do something else back in Europe, particularly probably in England, right? And I think there is reason to think that MLS is starting to step into that role, that it is a launching pad on some level. And if you come and star in MLS, you're going to open up some opportunities, right? And maybe you appeal to Harvey Elliott with an English manager than Dean Smith. Maybe you appeal to Harvey Elliott with a lifestyle, an opportunity to be part of, American soccer, just to experience that. There was a time when maybe that would be an almost impossible sell for a player like Elliott, because, oh no, it's going to undermine my career. I'm 22. I'll have better options. But you look at a guy like Ricky Puig, and now obviously Ricky Puig has not jumped from LA Galaxy, and the injury really sort of stalled his potential to do that immediately off of an incredible season in MLS. But why wouldn't Harvey Elliott see Ricky Puig and go, I want what that guy's got? I mean, maybe not here, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why it was great that Ricky Puig kind of set an example. He was a trailblazer in that regards, and my mind did jump to that. If Harvey Elliott did indeed, if there's reality to this, I feel like Harvey Elliott could be a Ricky Puig or even more if he stays healthy.
Sure, why not? I mean, and Ricky is having so much fun, or was obviously the injury, but he was having so much. He clearly enjoyed it. Right, LA is not a different place. It's a different place than Charlotte. Like there's that, but I don't know how much Harvey cares about the LA lifestyle versus a lifestyle in Charlotte. I will say that again, if we're just going to make cynicism a bit of a theme of the show today, what Fabrizio Romano puts out into the world is not always it's not all original sourcing, right? He is given information, and oftentimes that information is coming to him for strategic reasons by one party or another.
That's what I was going to say. For Harvey Elliott's agent, that's an easy text message or direct message to make if you're trying to stir up some heat for your client. I mean,
Exactly.
that'd be too easy.
Exactly. You say, hey, Fab, well, this team in MLS is interested, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't, right? I mean, I'm sure that's not built out of whole cloth. I'm sure it's not completely constructed out of nothing, that there may be interest, but putting it into the world is something to say, like, oh, if you want Harvey Elliott, if you think you have a place for Harvey Elliott, you better step up. Otherwise, he might take what could be an interesting offer in America.
All right. I see our guest is waiting in the wings for us here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for our comments here on the live show. If you want to get in the mix for live comments, become an MK Ultra, become a channel member. Just a few bucks a month gets you on-screen priority commenting, access to the Discord server, and lots of bonus content. And if not, just click that subscribe button. Become one of the more than 6,000 subscribers to Morning Kickaround, helping us dot the map of the American soccer landscape. All right, we're going to move on now to today's hot topic. We're going to talk World Cup ticketing with Travel Football Fan here on Morning Kickaround. Today's hot topic is World Cup centric, so it is a great time to announce that Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you now by Oakland County FC, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC online for more as we build to an exciting season ahead. Welcome aboard to our guest, Travel Football Fan. You can find him online giving the most details about World Cup tickets, travel, and the politics surrounding this huge tournament landing in our land in 2026. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here in the new year.
Good morning, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I mean, it's now the date says 2026, so we're officially in a World Cup year. So
finally,
we've obviously been building to the year, and we're building to the tournament, and your area of expertise is tickets and travel and everything around the tournament. So with the calendar turning over, tell us how you feel about where we're at right now.
Oh my God, I feel so conflicted. Obviously, half of me is like, yes, we're here. In 160 days, I will be in Mexico, hopefully with tickets to 2 of the Colombia games there. And I'm going to be with my daughter and my wife, and it's just going to be a whole cultural experience. It's going to be beautiful. The other half is anyone going to come? Because realistically, we saw 2025 be a record year for the United States. Every single month, lower and lower incoming tourists coming to the United States. And it cannot possibly be that all those millions of tourists are waiting to come in the summer of 2026. So there's that. Obviously, the politics of it has not gotten any better. If anything, it might be getting worse. And so there's just this conflicting set of emotions that, don't get me wrong, I did feel that in Qatar, but it's different when you're going somewhere abroad and you're like, okay, I understand these are going to be the things that are going to potentially happen. And other things is when it's happening at home. And I think that's where some of that sadness comes in.
So right now, if for folks, I know like you kind of laid the groundwork there that, international travel is a little bit odd right now. But for someone based in the United States that still has interest in buying a ticket, kind of what's the state of play for ticket purchasing now?
Yeah, so right now we're in the middle of phase 3. So everyone is applying for tickets. No one's buying tickets right now. We're going through these applications and whatnot, and it's just really, really complicated. But this one's pretty straightforward. You apply for what you can pay for. And I know a lot of people are like, what gives me the best chance? Well, the best chance for your application to be accepted is to apply for all Category 1 tickets, because FIFA will be happy to charge your credit card for all Category 1 tickets. If you go on my website, I do have a link showing all of the stadium maps. All of the stadiums, the majority of the tickets are Category 1 tickets, followed by Category 2, followed by Category 3. It literally is, and I did this on a live stream last night. I don't know if you can see it, but they inverse the pyramid. Okay, they completely inverse the ticket availability from Category 1 being the most to Category 3 being the least. So if you're really looking to have the most success in your application, you're gonna have to pay. So in effect, we have converted the pay-to-play system that is unfortunately so endemic in U.S. soccer to ticket purchases. So that's where fans are at. I know there's been a lot of chatter about, going through the resale market. My biggest hesitation with that, and I still recommend folks not to go through it right now, is verification of that purchase, because right now no one has an actual digital or physical, or no physical tickets, but no digital tickets aren't in anyone's possession right now. They have a receipt to a ticket. And so the challenge there is, can you get verification from that person you're buying from in the secondary markets that they actually did buy something, and not, oh, hold on a second, let me go ahead and get lucky through my application, and then I'll sell you that ticket. So that's where we're at when it comes to tickets. Not kind of about the price, of course, but I'm sure we can talk about the price.
Well, okay, so obviously that's been the topic is how, not the availability, like you said, the inverted pyramid of the categories of tickets, but as Jay Hunt says here, FIFA did say they have received the most requests ever. Take that how you want. And just a couple days ago, Gianni Infantino was defending the ticket prices, saying,
"Oh, he was mad at the peasants." That's how I described it.
Okay, yeah. Well, explain your feelings around what Johnny is saying, because again, if this is going to be the way that they cover themselves, like, oh yeah, you think the prices are too high? Doesn't matter. We've got millions of people who want to buy tickets. Yeah,
so part of that angle is very corporate-y, right? But I think the one that people are missing a lot is the nonprofit angle. Without FIFA, soccer would not exist around the world. Without FIFA, how can we fund these projects around the world? We don't need you to do that. You don't need to charge the American sports fan hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for. Look, no disrespect to Cape Verde versus Saudi Arabia, but I'm not paying $400 for that game. I'll gladly pay $40, $80, $100, because these are new teams to me, right? And this idea that all of a sudden FIFA wants to pull out that they're a nonprofit card. Well, how much does that Temu Peace Prize cost you to make? How much does it cost for FIFA to fly Gianni all around the world? And he's flying in his private jet. How much are all of these expenses eating away at the nonprofit's finances, right? I know this because I've worked in the nonprofit industry over a decade in my career. So, and that's the first thing they teach you, is that you got to balance the books. Well, you can't have it both ways, FIFA. You can't be on the one hand saying, this is supply and demand, which is not. They fix the prices. This is how much the cost of running the sport is. And then on the other hand, say, think of the children. Like, no, you can't have it that way. You got to, if you're going to be a nonprofit, you got to act like a nonprofit. And that means, Gianni, you probably shouldn't be speaking and being negative towards the American sports consumer from Dubai.
From Dubai, exactly. Yeah,
he wasn't even from PC. He could have driven by our house and have some coffee at least. Wasn't from Miami. We could have gone down to have a cafecito. It wasn't even from the U.S. It was from Dubai. So seems very much like a man in a high horse type of
at the same event, the same period when FIFA announces that they have some sort of agreement with Dubai over the FIFA best or the 11 or whatever. We're now sponsored by petrodollars to highlight the best of football. What are we doing here?
Exactly. So I think that's what folks, I don't think they're missing it. I think that now we're fully understanding, again, the power that FIFA does have. I mean, this is such a power flex that you can have the president basically tell its consumer base, stop complaining, right? You peasants, like, of course you're still going to go. But I think the main thing is when I know that comment said, 150 million tickets were requested. Yeah, but how many of them are for just Portugal, Colombia, and Miami? Let's be completely honest. If FIFA was to release a list of all 104 games and say these are the top 10, we probably will see the bottom 30, 40 games not being requested at all, probably, right? Or very few numbers. So that's not obviously conducive to FIFA's numbers and to its promotion. They're really trying to get the FOMO out of us that, oh my God, 150 million tickets. Oh my God, there's not going to be any left. Yeah, but again, how many is that for Portugal, Colombia? And that's funny too, right? It's not even Argentina that's driving this. It's Portugal, Colombia.
Yeah, not every single game has the same level of interest for sure. I've seen in your coverage, you've talked a lot about like the public transport in the various different cities and who's prepared and who's not. Who would you say, which city in the United States or really any of these venues seems to be the most prepared? And then on the other side, who's the most ill prepared to host this?
Yeah. So Kansas City did release their plans for their public transit for the World Cup. So like, if I know that was kind of one of the major cities that fans did have concerns with, because Arrowhead is pretty much like nowhere near the city center, but they have released their plans. You can see them on their Instagram page. I would say Seattle's another city where it already had the geographic advantage of Lumen Field being in the downtown area. Their light rail is connected to the airport and to other parts of the city, so they did have that advantage. As much as people like to criticize the New York, New Jersey areas public transit, even then, I would still say it's a pretty solid transportation system because it exists and it's big. So if there's a delay in one end, you could probably still hop on another train and get to the other side. So I would say those three cities are probably the most ready. I know Dallas said they're going to release their public transportation plan in March, which I know is another city that fans are very concerned about because it's in Arlington, not in Dallas. Unfortunately, with all love to my hometown of Miami, they are unfortunately the most unprepared. They have not released a public transportation plan. The city's choked in traffic, and if their plan is just release the Ubers, into what streets? And I've covered this almost like ad nauseum in my socials, but there's just really doesn't seem to be an interest by the Miami World Cup host committee to push out a plan, nor by the political leadership. And this is a symptom of over 20 years of ignoring public transportation requests from the public. This World Cup could have been a golden opportunity to leave a legacy of public transportation and improve lives in the city. And instead, we're just treating it like any other party on the weekend. Come through, let's have a good time. And if you somehow get home, cool. It's just so unfortunate that we're missing these golden opportunities to improve the local community.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all of this stuff is what people are going to be thinking about as the calendar turns over and they start looking. And again, you've had to be sort of in the mix, applying for tickets. You've had to make these plans far out, but there's so many unknowns about this. We haven't touched on lodging, on hotels, and all of that yet. Travel football fans. So give us, because the last time we were talking, I mean, obviously, again, supply and demand. If these hotels believe there's going to be a bunch of people coming, they're going to jack up their prices.
Oh, and they did. I mean, to give you a personal example, so for my plans for Mexico City and Guadalajara, I was very fortunate that we had our hotel points lined up. So instead of paying, I think, over $10,000 for lodging in Guadalajara, we paid it in points, and we got probably one of the best points to dollars redemption that we've ever gotten in our 6-7 years of travel as a couple. And then for Mexico City, understanding how to buy points in order to redeem them instead of paying for the full price of lodging, I pretty much saved 50% off on my lodging for the 5 nights in Mexico City. So my understanding of how to use travel points of miles to help me save money there really, really came through. Unfortunately, I'm not being able to have the same luck with my flights. I think I'm going to just go ahead, bite the bullet this weekend and just pay for the flights. Because they're not allowing me, and I think for a lot of folks, they're having the same experience of using their air miles to book their flights. And look, they are kind of doing this on purpose. Actually, they are doing this on purpose. And what the problem with increasing these prices almost kind of infinitely is that when you combine that with the lack of international tourists coming in, you're only creating a self-destruct mode for the American tourism economy, because you're going to increase the prices on lodging, on flights, on car rentals, on everything tourism, to the point where fans, even within the U.S., which within our own economy, we could, in theory, make this a economically successful World Cup. But if you're going to increase it so much that fans in Philadelphia could have gone to Kansas City, they'd be like, no, I'm just going to stay in Philadelphia. Same thing, Miami, Seattle, wherever you may be, you're not going to encourage travel. And so at some point, this whole Infantino, it's 104 Super Bowls, these hotels and airlines got to snap out of it and realize, no, it's not 104 Super Bowls. There's probably like about 90 soccer games happening, maybe 20 Super Bowls, like Portugal, Colombia. Fine. But for every Portugal, Colombia, you could probably name 10 games out of that calendar that go nowhere near the marquee nature of that game.
You're definitely right about that. I mean, it makes me a little bit excited thinking about 20 Super Bowls. That's just fun to think about in general.
Yeah.
But we talked, Jason and I, a week or so ago about the official FIFA watch parties. And there was a note that there was like some ticketing going on for the one in New York area.
Yeah.
Less clear, like maybe registration for some other locations. Do you have any news, or has there been any exciting updates about watch parties, official or otherwise?
Yeah, so I think the main part with that New York, New Jersey, it really surprised everybody with the whole $10 early bird, and I think that's also very concerning that this is an early bird price. Like, wait a minute, how much are you going to charge later? And I really do believe that they broke a cardinal social contract with soccer fans. You know, it's not the fact that it's $10. I'm pretty sure most of us can afford $10, and even then, that could be a very privileged statement to make. It's the fact that these fan festivals were free, have always been free, and they were always there as a culture generator, as a place of a third place, a gathering space for fans to be able to come together and just enjoy the game if they could not get tickets to the stadium. And now you want to charge that too. Some people are saying, "Oh, it's to prevent homeless people from getting in," which is like the wildest thing to be worrying about during a World Cup. Like everyone should be able to watch the footy. Oh, it's for security reasons with mass shootings, and it's like, well, okay. I mean, that is the one big thing in our society. Yeah, I mean, you're telling me they did not pass this like $600 million security bill. I think in 2025, middle 2025. They're gonna have plenty of money for security. Like they do not need to charge an extra $10 to ensure my safety. That just seems kind of very odd to say. It's just they broke that rule, and so interestingly enough, Kansas City, they came out and said, no, our fan festival was free. Miami said that their fan festival was free. And some of at least the Mexico and Canada fan festivals are free. So there's just this sense of like the fans are just absolutely, I think, at their tipping point of, can you just stop charging us for everything? Like I joked with the Cooligans last month that they might be variable pricing hot dogs at this point. Like it's just the pricing that the squeezing of the juice that they want to make on us here in the United States is so bad that we have no one to protect us from it. And I have began to criticize a lot U.S. soccer for this too, because I mean, what do you mean you're going to let FIFA just come in and charge us all these insane prices? Where are you guys?
Does anyone feel that the U.S. Federation is taking steps to safeguard the American soccer fan? That's a great point, because I don't think that's even come up as a topic of conversation, what they're doing. And I got to say, my stomach turned a little bit thinking about squeezing the juice out of hot dogs, regardless of the price.
I'm a lemonade, perhaps, but yeah, I mean, they might be putting, those hot dogs like charge $1, not even $1 during the group stage, and then for the finals, gonna be a whole different price. I mean, they're doing this with parking, right? So yeah,
I guess not that it matters too much. I mean, the upshot is this is what FIFA's doing, but it feels like this is Gianni Infantino's pet project is to just squeeze world football for as much as it's worth, and to have absolutely no shame in who you partner with, where you take your money from, all of those things, cozying up to whoever, right?
Yeah.
and I just, historically speaking, you go back to the FIFA presidential election that led to Gianni Infantino getting the job, and there was, I mean, we're talking what, 5-6 years ago now, maybe more than that.
So, yeah.
And I remember, obviously, Sepp Blatter, we had the raid on the hotel and all the people that got, whatever, cleaned up FIFA. And then Gianni Infantino comes in. And I think if you remember that election, Sunil Gulati was still involved with U.S. soccer at the time.
Yeah.
And Sunil Gulati essentially in the room brokered the deal that allowed Gianni Infantino to become FIFA president. Now, he was not the U.S. choice at the time.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the preferred candidate was, but once the ballots started coming in, it was between Johnny and I try to remember one of, I think
it was Morocco, if I'm not mistaken.
One of the there was
one of the Global South candidates, probably
somebody who I guess the United States preferred not to have, U.S. soccer preferred not to have in the job. A lot of people didn't want to have in the job. So I'm not saying it's Sunil Gulati's fault. I'm not saying it's U.S. soccer's fault. But it's just indicative of the poisonous nature of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and then of course, when you already set the precedent for Russia, Qatar, right? Everyone thought, all those years ago, oh, America will be a breath of fresh air. And it's like, no, our unfortunate, end stage capitalism vibes took over. and then you add Trump to the mix. Again, the draw ceremony was just an epic showcase of just cringe. I was doing a live stream, to provide an alternate viewing experience for my followers, and even they were in the comments like, "This is cringe. This is cringe." From the Kevin Hart short jokes to the Temu Priest prize that I refuse to call it for what they want to call it. All those things were so cringe, but again, they kind of go indicative to what you're saying, Jason, where it's like this organization, FIFA, has just gone so off the rails with who they want to make the relationships with, even so much so that I think it's been coming out more that the FBI is no longer investigating some corruption cases that FIFA was involved in. So it's like, did we just make a trade in front of everyone's eyes? Yeah. A little trophy for no investigations. It's just we're back to square one.
By the way,
so many people are basically saying, "Hey, Sepp Blatter, can you come back?" Because we're basically at square one. This was not necessary to bring Infantino
in terms of timeline. It's February 2016, so it's 10 years since Gianni Infantino became FIFA president.
We might as well be back at 2016 for that matter.
Yeah. And look, and I've said this before. I know we got to let you go, but I've said this before. The thing about the Sepp Blatter era was that there were paper bags full of cash being passed around, and we had Warner and all of Jack Warner and all these people hands in the pot stealing the money. But it was Miami. It was all kind of like, we're gonna do it hush hush.
Yeah,
we're and now everything is just so out in the grift is so visible.
NFTs, the ticket, the parking prices, it's so blatantly
at least
open.
Pretend that you don't want to just be criminals, right? At least pretend. Give us something that we can have some. We can rationalize. It's all hush hush. They might be stealing, but that's the criminal element. Now it's like, no. You're just flat out putting your hand straight in my pocket and yanking out all my money and saying, "Hey, you're welcome." You're welcome.
OG version versus the new reality. It's just like, I don't know which way you want us to do all the criminal enterprise. I think at the end of the day, what fans have to realize is this: look, I am one of the crazy fans. I am gonna spend my money, and on the flights, on the tickets. Hopefully, if FIFA still wants to accept my application, I will be submitting it in a couple of days. Hopefully, I'll get to see Colombia and Mexico. And I'll put my money in Mexico, and that's that, and we'll see how this tournament pans out. I think what is important for us overall to understand is, look at the times we're going through, right? As a whole, as a society, I know it's just soccer, and we want to just treat it as soccer. Trust me, I would love to just treat it as 104 soccer games. I would love to, but the advocate in me says, the person that studied history says, all these things say, look, this World Cup is unfortunately rubbing up with the 1978 Argentina World Cup, with just how, just some of the policies that this administration is taking out towards not only against fans, but against its own people. We're just going to be going through a very weird World Cup. Having said that, Colombia, please, I want a semifinal run para Colombia, so that way my heart could just feel like we did it. And if we could get to the final and win that trophy, please, I think that would be amazing to do. So this is, again, the conflict that I will live for the next 160-some days. I want Colombia to do its best. And then, oh, my God, all the atrocities that are happening regarding this World Cup.
Thank you for bringing us on that note. It's the mental backflips and the contortionism we have to do mentally for our soccer fandom. But thank you for ending on a positive note.
No,
thinking about your Colombia team in those final stages is that's the light we gotta hold out to as we work towards this odd summer. No doubt that will be ahead of us. Thank you. It's definitely a multifaceted topic, and thank you for breaking it down with us. All in the viewership, check out Travel Football Fan across all social medias. What would you say is your number one home base?
Right now, it's actually Instagram. It's actually taken over over TikTok, but please feel free to follow me on all other socials. Again, if you need help, advice with your travel plans, you can book a consultation with me on my website. But really, just follow me everywhere there. And again, it's only 160-something days, so it's go time. We have to have everything booked and ready to go, because by the time the World Cup comes around, I don't even know how I'm gonna do content there at that point. I might just shell up and just be like, nope, I'm just gonna watch the games. I can't help everybody.
Yeah.
Once it starts, you will hopefully no longer have to be a travel agent. But thank
There
you
you go.
so much for joining us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Travel Football Fan, giving us an update on all things World Cup 2026 as they stand here now. As I said at the top, Morning Kick-Arounds World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club. They're celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC online for more as we grow towards an exciting season ahead. Thank you to OCFC for supporting this program. First sponsor alert there.
Yeah, they're great to have Oakland County on board. I like that we have, an amateur summer club who is saying, you know what, we care about the growth of soccer and the growth of this show, and it's a World Cup year, and that brings people together, even if we're all upset about ticket prices and variable AI driven charges to our bank account to watch the game. You won't have any of that with Oakland County FC.
Shout out to John Ellert in the chat. He's an Elmwood Elite. He's one of the supporters of Oakland County FC. So we got some hometown fans in the chat. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all our MK Ultras. Thank you for all the feedback and the support of the show. You can also become a subscriber at no cost whatsoever. Hit that button to get up to date for all of our videos as they come. And it definitely helps the channel a lot. Over 6,000. Great holiday season on that front. And we do have one more segment and a fun one to come. The biggest stadium projects in 2026. Let's go to soccer under construction here on Morning Kick Around. On New Year's Eve, we discussed our favorite renderings of the year, but now with the new year upon us, we're going to take a look at the projects well underway and even some of the ones opening in 2026. Soccer under construction is getting real as we begin 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to do here is talk about some stuff that won't actually be completed in 2026, but still the process of following along as those projects start, as the shovels get into the ground. One that I realized that we hadn't included in the pre-show meeting that definitely deserves mention is Detroit City FC and Alumni Field getting at least the beginning process of tearing down the hospital and starting to figure out how to remediate all of the stuff that's going on there. And they're looking at 2027. So that's another project that won't be completed this year, but definitely will be on our minds throughout the calendar year.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of projects across this country in various stages of completion, but one project and one stadium that will be open in 2026. The MLS Cup champions will have a new home, Miami Freedom Park, set to open, and a whole new level and a whole new era for Messi's team down there in South Florida.
Yeah, these are not current images. This is just what I pulled from the website. I don't know how far. I drove by this place not that long ago when I was down in Miami to get on a cruise ship, and it looks, it looks like it's moving along pretty quickly. All the girders, you can see all the skeleton of the building is up there in this video, and so I thought I would show actually construction pictures for Inter Miami, but then you have with this, which is what the finished product is supposed to look like. Now, will it look exactly like this? I don't know. That's a lot of development beyond just the stadium itself, Rob. But this, if it looks even a little bit like this is going to be pretty spectacular. I'm a guy. We talked about this with Travel Football Fan in terms of wrestling with your fandom and like what the people that control soccer are trying to do to you, like taking advantage of the fact that you are, a soccer fan who's going to give them your money. And I don't know that I love everything about Inter Miami. And I'm not even talking about like their roster shenanigans and all that. I'm talking about some of the things that go along with Jorge Mas and the Mas family. And this is not the forum for that. Like, I don't think we need to get into that discussion, although it's called Miami Freedom Park for a specific reason. If you want to look into the background of the Moss family and sort of what their origins are. But man, it's going to be awesome if they open it like that. It looks not downtown Miami or anything. It is sort of out there by the airport, in this spot that used to be a golf course. It's not going to be, it's not going to be incredible in every particular way. But for, for soccer fans who have watched the saga of Miami and David Beckham standing up at a lectern announcing he was going to bring a team to Miami, and then the years and years and years of struggle just to even get the team on the field because they didn't have a place to play, finally getting Jorge Mas and his group, and then finally getting the stadium deal across the line. It'll be remarkable when Lionel Messi, presumably, is going to be standing on that field playing for Inter Miami in a stadium that people will say, the stadium Messi built, even if it was sort of underway before he showed up.
Yeah, and this will be just another like permanent flag planted for American soccer. When we discussed Detroit earlier in the week, it's just like a biggest monument to soccer, a permanent marker for the sport, where in many places in the country there really hasn't been, there isn't one just yet. And that above, like the bird's eye view you gave of the stadium there, kind of reminded me of Allianz Stadium in Munich. The kind of had a little bit of a Bayern Munich look to it. That one right there.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I mean, I think that's,
can't lie.
it's a pretty nice look for stadium design. I mean, this is, and they like, obviously they've taken pains to make sure that this kind of fits the Miami aesthetic too. So it's not going to be, like we just looked at Chicago the other day, right? Because we were very excited by the idea of that Chicago could build a stadium, and it's a box, but it fits the Chicago architectural history. It's supposed to fit into you don't want a stadium that doesn't fit into the city it's being built in. And I think that's the case with Miami, is they found a way to kind of make it look Miami.
Indeed. Moving up the coast, not opening in 2026, but definitely well underway. Major League Soccer's New York City FC, they are building a building in one of the boroughs, which was promised for a long time. A lot of folks didn't believe it, but there it is. Pictures on screen. New York City FC will play in a soccer-specific stadium after not too long.
Yeah, these are fairly recent pictures. Grab them, as you can see, from NewYorkYimby.com, which is all about, build stuff. And they took some pictures. You can see, the skeleton of this place going up. Yeah, definitely won't be done this year, but it's going to be transformative too, in a massive way. Like I think, again, I've been bringing some cynicism to the show today. We had a little bit of it with the World Cup ticket discussion, but in terms of this, and again, politics and the people who own the team and some of that stuff, don't want to get into that. Don't want to let that ruin my excitement, because New York City FC can be massive in a way that goes beyond just sort of the constraints that MLS has on its clubs, because it's MLS. Right. So it's New York. It is a world capital in a lot of ways. And for that team to have their own stadium that will ultimately look, let me see if I can throw this up here, ultimately look like this in the end, or at least this is what they're planning it to look like, that will be a step forward for not just soccer in America. It'll be a step forward for this club, a step forward, not just for soccer in America, but American soccer around the world, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? This suddenly becomes a much more attractive team for players, for fans, for the people that care about the sport, the people that can lift the sport up. And, again, maybe it's a little blunt and cynical, but corporate dollars, people who want to be part of exciting new things in a city like New York are going to be very on board with this, I think, in the end.
Yeah, a huge leveling up. I mean, the images we're seeing on screen here are pretty fantastical, but just having one of the teams in one of them, obviously the marquee city in the United States, and having a true soccer home for them, huge upgrade. As anyone who has watched a game in Yankee Stadium, you'll know that there's many different, from the in stadium experience to television experience. This will be a huge leveling up.
A couple of renderings here. So we had the video. This is an overhead look. Citi Field, I think, is there at the bottom left. So that's where the Mets play. Obviously, this is in Queens and Flushing Meadows. Picture that cube thing that they're very excited about. I think, there's talk about like a pigeon statue or something. Oh, look, here's some AI rendered, or some rendered people. Not AI, rendered people inside the building. This is not this doesn't look like, I don't know. But these are obviously going to be premium seats, and I guess you have to allow for that in 2026, Rob, that there's going to be premium seats in all these stadiums and that they're going to look like this. But people are sitting on couches, right? Why are they sitting on couches watching the game? Like, I want it to be for the people too. So I hope that is, a major part of this as well.
Yeah, that definitely looks like the more corporate-y section. They got their nachos and their drinks and their couches. That looks like a little private living room.
There. Yeah,
those are
some suites and some boxes. And I think these guys inside the suite, they can't possibly see what's going on. All those people are standing up in front of them, down in front. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they didn't pay those premium prices to be blocked by peasants. Come on now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But plenty of other projects across the country in action, kind of moving down the league ladder a little bit, but not for value moving down. We're going to move to the Midwest and into the USL League One. Fort Wayne, they recently rebranded ahead of their jump to the professional ranks. They've been a USL2 team since just before COVID. They're leveling up as a USL League One team, and along with that, a brand new stadium in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah, this is exciting. Obviously, this is not as sort of like just obviously impressive as Inter Miami or NYCFC, but as important, certainly as important. And again, if a town like Fort Wayne is going to have a long-term relationship with soccer, things like this have to happen. There have to be people willing to put money into a project to build a stadium so that place or that team rather has a permanent presence in the community. And without, sort of knowing exactly how well located this is or anything like that, Rob. Hey, look, bouncy houses. We got bouncy castles or whatever you want to call those. Jump I don't know. What do we call them?
I know you're anti-bounce house, but for the the amateur league teams, you got to give some more game
I'm not
events. You got to give some game presentation. You got to let the kids run around and occupy themselves so you can enjoy the game.
I'm not. Like I said, I'm not mad at that. This is from inside. This is very, very cool. I mean, if it looks like this, not roofed all the way around. That's expensive, but roofed on some part of this. Are those people taking a selfie? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, it looks like they're having some selfie fun there.
Okay. I mean, I guess in 2025, 26, we got to render people taking selfies in stadiums. Yeah, man, I don't know what else to say about this other than this is very cool that a town like Fort Wayne is building a soccer stadium. And I will never, I don't want to ever lose that excitement and that wonder and that awe of the fact that this is happening. Because if you're old enough, and I guess I am, then this is still amazing that things like this are going down.
Yeah, the fact that this is even the realm of possibility is amazing. It's going to be called Fort Wayne FC Park, and they're set to have their home opener at their brand new building on May 2nd. So exciting times in Indiana. And I think there's a chance one of our MK Ultras, Ryan Schmelzer, is trying to get us there for that game or one of those very early games in Fort Wayne to check out that brand new building. We talked about Greenville a bit in our renderings. The Renaissance themed soccer stadium set to open in 2026, and you actually have a different picture than we brought up on the show the other day.
Yeah, this one is from 3 years ago or something. It's a lot. I found this while looking for pictures of the stadium today, and obviously they're under construction, but construction pics are hard to come by, and even if you do get them at the level that they're at, you're just seeing shovels and you're seeing backhoes and big equipment and stuff, and it's not actually looking like anything yet. So this isn't a complete view of what it'll look like, I don't think. And again, some things may have changed. And obviously the colors we know are very different if they're going to match that what is it? Something Bridge Station. I'm just blanking on the name of that development, that area of Malden, South Carolina. Rob's going to work on that. He's going to pull up that name so that we can properly reference.
Oh, man.
That's okay. All right, I'm putting you on the spot. But anyway, so look, when the other renderings that we saw, you can see from outside that one side, it's going to fit the architectural aesthetic of the development. It looks like it's a pretty standard stand on the other side, not bleachers, but seats with without any roof, without any cover. This is outside of that weird architectural element, Rob. This is nothing fancy here. This is just a stadium so they can play some games and again control their revenue and hopefully build from here. And maybe one day you do put a roof on the stadium, or maybe you find a way to expand in the two goal ends and add some seating.
Yeah, they're building this stadium near Bridgeway Station, which is the development right by there.
I think I said bridge and I think I said station. I just didn't have the word way. Bridgeway Station. Yeah.
And they got to leave room to expand. You got to put some some cannon turrets or something like that, or maybe some watchtowers from some invaders.
Sure, yeah, that's what you need. All those.
So we're running out of time a little bit today.
What's that thing that throws the boulders or throws the big trebuchet? A trebuchet. You got to have a trebuchet nearby. Yeah.
Producer Jenny is saying Vernova Park. I'm not sure what that's saying, but I'm reading the press release as Bridgeway Station. Plenty of other projects ongoing across the country here. Do we want to talk about Grand Rapids, Michigan? They are building a brand new stadium, the Amway Stadium for MLS Next Pro, set to open in 2027. There's also Boise's stadium, a renovation project, but it'll be a new body into itself. We did get an update in our countdown to kickoff that the turf has been laid, and they've done a lot of renovations on that existing big main stand. But this is what it's eventually going to look like come spring 2027.
Yeah, so
or 26 rather.
No, soon. Like a couple of months away from
less than 100 days. Countdown to kickoff.
Again, I think when we talked to Brad Stith, who runs AC Boise, one thing he said is he kind of grew up going to, I think it was horse racing, right? He grew up in the area and he had been there before, and that main stand, right, is going to be a carryover from that previous life that this location had as a horse racing track, and then you get that second building, which I think is where Brad, you can see it to the left of the main stand. I think that's where Brad was doing his interviews with us from, because we could see behind him and into the stadium and into the field. Again, limited roofing, limited bells and whistles. Not, this is not so much a stadium as it is seats around the field, right? For the most part. But I'm not trying to diminish it, Rob. I'm just saying that for every $1 billion stadium, there's going to have to be in places like Boise or Fort Wayne a slightly different approach to building a proper soccer home. And, I think, we were doing our rendering ratings on the last show. Somebody said that one of the stadiums kind of gave lower division English football vibes, right? Which, the traditional English football stadium literally is just 4 stands around a field. It's nothing more complicated than that.
Yeah, I love the small old English style that aren't, anything super fancy, but they're covered, small, modest stands all the way around. And maybe even one end is a rope, on there. But I love the small covered stand look for a stadium, and can't stress enough how exciting it is that places like this are building soccer stadiums, and there's some value being put into the infrastructure, and there's merit to building all of these, and there's places all across the country getting excited and putting in resources into making a permanent soccer infrastructure. So exciting times ahead as we look for stadium openings in 2026 and a whole lot opening in 2027.
Yeah, there's never a quiet moment on the building front in American soccer, and that's good for us. It's kind of our bread and butter over here. And hopefully people want to join up as members to support the show, so we can keep talking about this stuff and hopefully talking to the people involved in all of these things. Because, again, it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to be skeptical of some motivation when it comes to some people involved. But I think for the most part, these projects are being run by people who really do want to create something special in their communities and build something that can last, and obviously, is part of their passion for the game of soccer, which we all have. We all share that.
As you stick along with us on the channel, we are going to continue our countdown to kickoff series As we move into January, we're going to be detailing the journeys of AC Boise, the Cosmos, and Atletico Dallas as they count down to kickoff. So great off-season content on the way there. And of course, we are going to follow World Cup news 2026 as well. So keep it locked in here to Morning Kick Around. We will be back again live on Monday. And until then, everybody, thanks for joining us and enjoy your soccer.